Although I didn't start ODD TV until 2015, I've been an avid researcher since 2012. One of the very first topics that I came across was chemical aerosols that are distributed by airplanes, otherwise known as chemtrails. You can see them with your own eyes, and it's extremely easy to see that they are not condensation trails due to the chemicals staying airborne for hours and not dissipating. Another topic I ran into early on was HAARP, which is a facility that uses ionospheric heaters to tamper with the weather. They now claim that HAARP is no longer in operation, but we'll talk more about that here in a minute. Many talking heads and government-sponsored websites will try their best to keep people from looking into the subject by ridiculing it and acting like it doesn't exist.
There are people that believe that the cloud-like trails you see in the sky behind jets are actually the government spraying evil chemicals. Now, I have to admit that I am very skeptical when it comes to the idea of chemtrails.
HAARP stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program.
Uh-oh, here we go. HAARP. Every conspiracy theorist's ears just got a little bit bigger. For those of you who don't know what HAARP is, it's a top-secret military installation that some believe is being used to weaponize the weather. Do you feel like HAARP has anything to do with these weather modifications?
Just like if you're going to build a house, you don't use one tool. So I think there are multiple tools, and HAARP is one of them. Whether it's the primary one or not, I don't know.
He is a chemtrail believer. I'm not buying that chemtrails are causing all these things. I'm gonna talk to a man next. His name is Mick West, and he runs a debunking website where he clearly and scientifically analyzes all of the problems with the conspiracy theories behind chemtrails. Are chemtrails real?
No, it's impossible to make a mile-wide trail by spraying powder. All that happens when a plane flies through the air is that it triggers a cloud. It's not actually really making a cloud. The cloud was ready to happen anyway.
What are your thoughts on, like, HAARP?
Well, there's really wild speculation about what HAARP could actually do. Like it could, create earthquakes and change the weather. But that's just basically wild speculation.
The fears of HAARP, you feel, are just based on ignorance.
Yeah.
We have our super skeptical science sleuth, Carly Kloss, out there, hot on the trails.
There are many wild theories about the billowy trails emitted by aircraft that decorate our skies.
Look around, look at this.
They're accelerating their plan, man.
Why are they doing it?
Eugenics, population control.
Look up, people, look!
Chemical trails. Is there any truth behind this speculation? I decided to take my inquiry to Tory Ward, a commercial pilot with over 11,000 hours of flight experience and more than 80 types of aircraft. He should have a scientific explanation for what those mysterious streaks in the sky really are.
So Tory, these long white lines that are left in the sky after a jet flies through the air, is there any truth to the theory that there's chemicals that are released by the government?
Absolutely not.
What about to control minds?
No, they are very much conspiracy theories. It is a condensation trail. Contrails are formed by generally aircraft at higher altitudes where the temperature is cold enough and also moist enough.
Okay.
There you have it. Myth debunked. Chemtrails, they're just not real.
Very cool, very cool.
The funny thing about that is they must have been left out of the loop because this is verifiable public information. Let's start with a 2009 document from the Royal Society called Geoengineering the Climate, Science, Governance, and Uncertainty. This document is loaded with information that Joe Rogan, Mick West, and Bill Nye will deny without any real rebuttal, including this part on page 4 that says, weather modification dates at least back to the 1830s when the proposals of American meteorologist James Pollard Espy to stimulate rain by controlled forest burning led to him becoming feted as the Storm King. Anyway, I will link this document in the description along with everything else. Next up is a NASA document from 2001 called Future Strategic Issues, Future Warfare. I've covered this in a previous video about chemtrails, but just in case you're new to this, here's a short clip from that video. So check this out. This was written by Dennis M. Bushnell, Chief Scientist at NASA Langley Research Center. Future Strategic Issues, Future Warfare, circa 2025. The future is now. There are many things in the pages of this document. I just want to briefly show you page 43, Microdust Weaponry, a mechanical analog to biomicron-sized mechanized dust which is distributed as an aerosol and inhaled into the lungs. Dust mechanically bores into lung tissue and executes various pathological missions. And here on the bottom, a wholly new class of weaponry which is legal. So is the future in 2025 or is it now? You know, that really doesn't even matter. If this paper was released in 2001, then they obviously have been working on things like this and programs like this for many years, most likely many decades. And the paper says circa 2025, which means roughly 2025. I think depending on how you look at it, the time we're living in now can be defined as roughly 2025. And check this out. We go to metabunk.org where this dude named Chuck is like, I found this supposed NASA document, is it real? And Mick West replies, it's not a new document, it's an old PowerPoint presentation from 2001. There's nothing new in it that's not in many other books and papers on the future of war or futurism in general. Then it just goes on talking that usual Mick West bullshit. So this presentation is nothing to worry about because it's a few years old? Are you kidding me? At least he tried, I guess. After all, he is only an employee for someone that doesn't want information getting out. Now, let's look at one last document. This one is called A Recommended National Program in Weather Modification. Another NASA document, but this one is from 1966. This one talks about the Department of Agriculture's Weather Modification Program. ESSA's, or Environmental Science Services Administration's Planned Weather Modification Research Program, the Department of Defense's Weather Modification Program, the Bureau of Reclamation's Weather Modification Program, National Science Foundation's Weather Modification Program, the Federal Aviation Agency's Weather Modification Program, and finally, NASA's Weather Modification Program. If these were all from 1966, can you imagine what's taking place now? Speaking of 1966, a movie called Our Man Flint came out, and it's about an organization called Galaxy that seeks to control the world with their machine that's capable of controlling the weather.
New York, San Francisco, New Orleans, Marseille, every seaport's in danger. Who is doing this and why, huh?
It's the work of madmen.
Oh, mad, sane. Oh, they're brilliant. They're demonstrating that they can control the weather.
Turn wheat belts into deserts. Put icebergs in the Mediterranean. You control the weather and you control the world.
I don't know, sir. It's on all channels.
Who are they?
People of the world, there is no need to panic. Please do not be alarmed. We are your friends.
Members of the Grand Council, you have just witnessed a live transmission, remote control from the Arctic region.
Get a radio fix on this.
Through the inducement of regulated tremors along the established fissures in the Earth's crust, we are now able to control local weather conditions throughout the world.
For the more skeptical among you, we have prepared further proof.
On the southern edge of Iwo Jima is the extinct volcano known as Burichabi.
In the Chukotsky region, on the northeast tip of Russia, lies the dormant volcano known as Amgoyamska.
In exactly 10 seconds, we will cause these ancient volcanoes to erupt with a Richter force of 4.9.
Seismology reports a Richter reading of 4.9 at both locations.
The Galaxy organization's logo looks a lot like the Freemason square and compass. Just saying. While we're on the subject of television, let me give you a few more. You know that's my thing. There's an Underdog episode from 1965 called Weathering the Storm.
Storm! But this is impossible. Our scientists promised us good weather, and they're never wrong.
But they were wrong this time, and the reason for their error was Simon Bar Sinister.
Look what happens to the world when I use my weather machine. I push the key for rain, and it pours. Now watch this. Simon says, tornado twist.
On the original Bionic Woman TV show, there is a 3-part event called Kill Oscar, where there's this mad scientist capable of controlling the weather using a machine.
Blowing it.
Okay, you can check my hearing because I just heard a thunderstorm. Now there's nothing in that sky, not a cloud, nothing.
It's our weather control station. Actually, it's the experimental lab for the full-size working model we're building at White Sands.
Are you talking about things like watering deserts and controlling floods?
Yeah, that was the plan. But after some early success, we ran into some real problems. If we bring rain into one area, it causes drought in another. And international law isn't even written on a country's rights to air currents.
Yes, but Rudy, if it works, that's fantastic.
No, it's not as good as it sounds. There are basic instabilities. We have a limited power to create severe storm conditions, but we can't control the damage.
1984, G.I. Joe, Revenge the Cobra.
Soon Flint and the other Joes will pass directly over the pit of chaos, and there they will learn the folly of pursuit. With my new invention, the Weather Dominator, I shall destroy G.I. Joe with the irresistible power of nature itself!
You have no hope of resisting our might. We control a new power. The raw strength of nature itself, against which there is no defense. Watch as I unleash the sea and sky to do my bidding!
He's not fooling around.
I shall continue to unleash the terror of weather gone mad until you surrender to me and acknowledge the rule of Cobra!
A 1998 movie called The Avengers, where Sean Connery seeks to charge people for good weather and punish others with bad weather.
Above you, the weather is changing. The temperature is dropping. Soon it will be freezing. Why? Because the weather is no longer in God's hands, but in mine. Those clouds, all controlled by me, are recreating the weather. I have set off a chain reaction that will paralyze and ultimately destroy the city.
And one more interesting clip from the 1998 X-Files movie.
Are you familiar with what the Federal Emergency Management Agency's real power is?
FEMA allows the White House to suspend constitutional government upon declaration of a national emergency. Think about that. A silent weapon for a quiet war. The systematic release of an indiscriminate organism for which the men who will bring it on still have no cure. They've been working on this for 50 years. While the rest of the world have been fighting crooks and commies, these men have been secretly negotiating a planned Armageddon.
Negotiating with whom?
I think you know. The timetable has been set. It'll happen on a holiday when people are away from their homes. The president will declare a state of emergency, at which time all government, all federal agencies will come under the power of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, the secret government.
FEMA, the secret government. How about that? I don't doubt it. So anyway, they claimed to have shut down HAARP, which is a facility that used ionospheric heaters to change the weather. I don't believe for a second that HAARP is shut down, but even if it is, there are many other facilities across the Earth that do the same thing. We have the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, the Sura ionospheric heating facility in Russia, and there is an association called ISCAT or ESCAT that operates several facilities in different parts of the world, with their headquarters being in Sweden. And this is just naming a few. Check out a book called Chemtrails, HAARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. The author still believes that the Earth is a globe and that outer space is a real thing, but it's still a good book. They list a dozen more of these HAARP-type facilities, showing that even if HAARP is closed down, it doesn't matter. It wasn't the only one. There is no natural weather anymore. Not only can they make rain, snow, hail by mixing certain chemicals, but hurricanes can be created, and natural hurricanes can be amplified and directed. NASA and these other elitist groups are playing God, and I, for one, don't appreciate it. I want to say God bless to all those that are affected by this man-made weather. It's absolutely BS.
Don't worry if you can't hear what I'm saying. I couldn't even hear myself. This is the loudest sound you could possibly conceive. And, as it turns out, the cleanest. Now, the most amazing thing is that that cloud up there, which was generated by the engine, is just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor. And in about an hour's time, someone in Mississippi is going to get wet washing. It will actually rain. I told you! It's raining! That's unbelievable! Oh. NASA's playing God! It's making its own weather!